Okay, welcome everyone. We're here today for our first public consultation on the 2024 municipal budget. We'd like to thank staff who've worked diligently to get a draft proposed 2024 budget. Council received a very similar presentation in the last week, and now this is an opportunity for members of the public to also hear and benefit from the presentation this evening. So I'd like to recognize all my council colleagues who are here and thank them for coming. And we do know that this presentation is being live streamed. And of course, council has yet to really actively deliberate on the budget, but we've received the information that our CAO, Karen Dunlop, and her colleagues will present today. And of course, between now and our virtual session, Chloe, which is February 1st, we'll have a session via Zoom for anyone who can't be in person. We encourage you to register for our Zoom-only session. Once we've gotten the 2 rounds of feedback and as a council had more discussion, we expect to pass the budget at some point in February. But today, as the purpose of today's meeting is really to give staff the opportunity to present. And should a question come to you, not today, but down the road or next week, we always welcome your feedback. So I'll pass it over to CEO Ms. Dunlop, and she'll kick things off. And I'll step away from the chair position for the purposes of the presentation, and I can come back after.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this presentation of the Senior Manager's proposed 2024 budget is based on strategic planning, expected service levels, master planning documents, asset management requirements, and community requests. Next slide. The agenda this evening is an all-encompassing as provided on this slide. All senior managers are here this evening to answer your questions or to get you answers. Any questions can be sent to budget@northgrenville.on.ca. We will be reviewing the highlights of the operational and capital components of the tax-based services and the user fee-based water and wastewater portion. Next slide. A budget is the strategic and financial plan that provides the direction for the next fiscal year and sometimes beyond. All municipalities must approve a budget in accordance with provincial regulations. Next slide. North Grenville's budget is broken down into tax-based operating and capital and rate-based water and wastewater operating and capital. Both programs identify revenue, values, and sources. Next slide. The budget process began months ago by reviewing trends and commitments by staff, looking at service levels and goals. Senior managers have provided this document for council's review, and following public engagement, we'll revisit and consider the projects and operational service levels included in this draft budget and the proposed tax increase. Next slide. Strategically, we incorporated growth, services, economic development, business needs, environmental, community, and service delivery expectations in this budget. Next slide. The next 8 slides are 2023 highlight and 2024 goals. Each director will speak briefly to their operational division, starting with Public Works. Next slide.
Thank you, Ms. Dunlop. So a couple of highlights from 2023. For the Public Works Department, we did see the award of the County Road 43 expansion for the construction of the County Road 43 expansion. This, of course, is a partnership project with the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville. We do anticipate, as we show in the objectives, 2024 objectives, is a spring construction start. We do identify a number of sidewalks and road rebuilds, also with some highlights, as well as the completion of the Denison Road Bridge rehabilitation, which did have the bridge closed from the end of August to the end of October. In terms of 2024 Public Works objectives, again, as we mentioned, the County Road 43 expansion construction project is set to commence. We do have a number of master plans, an update to our transportation master plan, and a new waste transfer station master plan. We did also identify on this slide a number of road rebuilds and sidewalks as well.
Parks and Recreation is up, and Culture is up next. So some of our 2023 Parks and Recreation Culture highlights were opening up the new outdoor rink and building at Riverside Park, completion of some new playground equipment at Crozier Park in Oxford Mills and Oxford Station Park in Oxford Station. We also completed a new fence and basketball pad resurfacing at the Birch Rapids Community Park, and we did some rehabilitation work at the Maplewood Hall. Our objectives for 2024 is the completion of the Heron's Nest Park in the Tempo subdivision, construction of the County Road 44 multi-use pathway extension, and a change of use project for the Armory facility near Riverside Park.
Up next is Corporate Services, and Corporate Services includes the Clerk, IT, and Corporate Strategy divisions. Some highlights from 2023 include getting to work with the new Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Advisory Committee, as well as the newly established Indigenous Advisory Circle to advance some of those objectives. As well, in the back end with staff, we were rolling out a new electronic file management system. Next slide, please. One of our biggest highlights for 2024 is launching the new NG Transit, which is now in its third day of operation. And as well in the back end and public facing as well, we're completing the council chambers upgrades early this year.
Good afternoon. Up next is EPS, Emergency Protective Services. The emergency service is one of several key service providers under the control of municipal services. Our highlights for this year are our key chief of training position was filled and working on our new legislation for firefighter training, as well as replacement of some of our capital equipment under our 20-year plan. And as well, we worked on the implementation of a community risk assessment. Some of our objectives for this year include a fire master plan renewal for the year. This is a 10-year plan, and we will be progressing on that this year, as well as firefighter honorarium policies and amending our orientation and recruitment program for volunteer firefighters. We'll also update our hazard risk assessment for emergency management for the municipality, and we hope to begin our concept plans for Station 2 fire station in our rural sector. Thank you.
In regards to planning and development, our highlights from last year include our population study update, which was presented to council in December of last year, the establishment of a housing report card, as well as the Affordable Housing Summit, which was successfully held in September of last year. Looking forward to 2024, we will be updating our official plan and undertaking a comprehensive community engagement process as part of that update, as well as updating our development charges bylaw. Thank you.
The CAO highlights and objectives in 2023. The municipal website was updated, and we're looking forward to, in 2024, a communication strategic plan and an update in our service delivery review. In regards to economic development, Matt Gilmer, our manager of economic development, could not be with us tonight, but he did provide these highlights and goals. In 2023, economic development completed many projects. One for highlighting is the new waterfront strategy. This project was to demonstrate how we can showcase and access the Rideau River better. This project was completed in collaboration with all departments and public engagements. As a goal in 2024, we want to start implementing some of the report's recommendations. Next slide. The new CEO of the library, Emily Farrell, provided a few highlights and goals for the library. In 2023, they completed a Sunday hour pilot, and in 2024, will continue with some hours on Sunday, January to April, from 12 to 4. Next slide. The North Grenville team plan to continue to improve service delivery by reviewing policies and bylaws, update our strategic plan, and multiple master planning documents. Next slide. We plan to continue to digitize municipal records and the building permit process, plus provide for better virtual participation in council and committee meetings. Next slide. We plan to improve our project planning through online management programming, refreshing master plans such as the fire department's, transfer station, and the emergency management HIRAs, and improve financial reporting, including trending on a more frequent basis. Next slide. The budget is impacted by many different factors: growth, strategic and work plans, public consultations, asset management needs, sustainability, climate change, and inflation. We have all seen the supply chain impact over the last few years, and it has not balanced back out yet. Next slide. The next two slides are the municipality's commitment to investing in our community through the Community Grant Program, Community Support Program, long-term, and healthcare. To highlight a few, there is, under long-term care, a commitment to the Kemptville District Hospital for $90,000 per year over the next 10 years, as well as a commitment for a $17,000 per year regarding Mapleview Lodge. We continue to support things such as Salvation Army Food Bank, Beth Donovan Hospice, Seniors Escorted Transit Service, Kemptville Youth Center, as well as their operational support. Next slide. This slide represents community development, some signature and cultural events, including within departmental budgets, an item such as physician recruitment, which has been a positive and well-received program. Next slide. As provided last year, these are the definitions commonly used in our budget breakdown: salaries and benefits, materials and supplies, insurance, which has seen an almost 10% increase this year, as well as contracted property services, which are items such as utilities, cell phones, repair, and maintenance of some assets, including fleet and the leased fleet. Next slide. Contracted professional services include items such as IT support, legal, reports and studies, fees and dues, training, conferences, and software. Next slide. The summary of the 2024 proposed operating budget provides for a 3.5% municipal tax increase, and will provide an overview of the operational departments in the coming slides. The revenue for the municipal government is primarily through municipal property taxes, although we do receive formula-based grants for certain purposes from higher levels of government, which are embedded within the budget. These grants include the Canada Community Building Fund. Allotment for 2024 is just under $565,000. The Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund provides $885,000. And the Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund will grant us $1,076,300. This, along with the required taxation base of $18.5 million and additional user fees, reserves, and development charges, make up the revenue to operate the municipality. Next slide. This slide pictorially represents the breakdown of our revenue sources, the largest, of course, being taxation. Next slide. The proposed taxation increases for the municipal component of the property tax is 3.5%, which above growth will provide an increase of just over $611,000. Next slide. The municipality also accumulates debt for larger and long-term items. The next two slides demonstrate the current debt and annual payments. Next slide. This slide also includes the campus mortgage, which is paid by the reserve fund created in 2018. Next slide. The property tax rate has three components: education, county, and municipal. There has been no indication of an increase in the educational component. The United Counties of Leeds and Grenville is currently going through their budget deliberations and has a proposed rate currently of 6.28% increase, along with the municipal proposed increase at 3.5%. Next slide. The tax bill does not all go to the municipality. Although we collect the property tax bills at the municipality, we send 12% away for education, 35% to the county, which leaves 53% for residential, front-facing municipal government operations. Next slide. The next 11 slides are departmental operating budget. I will highlight each department, and any questions can be directed at the appropriate department head through email or in person. The Office of the CAO has expenses at $19,790,079, which includes the taxation revenue for all other departments. Operationally, this office covers human resources, communication, tourism, and ECDEV. Next slide. Finance, with expenses of $1,544,663, covers all financial operations, including payroll, front reception operations, budgeting, reporting, payments, and receivables. Next slide. Corporate services, with an expense of $1,888,069, covers the clerk's office, IT and software, strategic initiatives, and other incentives such as the CIP program, physician recruitment, and the conservation authorities. Next slide. The building division is a standalone budget based on the building fees that are collected from permits and have an expense of $916,677. which covers the building department operations for all inspectors, software, and administrative support. This slide is for council. This is the expense of your elected officials, with an expense of $279,799. This covers the expenses of council as a whole. Next slide. Parks, Recreation, and Culture, with expenses of $2,293,354, covers the operation of all parks, vehicles, staffing, utilities, and service contracts, including the library grant listed as other costs. Next slide. Expenses of $2,327,490 is the contracted price for the OPP for the 2024. Future contract negotiations will be pending following the provincial realignment of the detachment boards. Next slide. Emergency and Protective Services, which are somehow out of my notes, have an expense category of $1,493,250. I take that back. So each department director will highlight a project or two. No, I have to flip the page. My apologies again. This is Emergency and Protective Services. The expense of $1,493,250 covers all the requirements to operate our fire service and emergency management division. It includes repairs and maintenance and utilities for our fire station, manpower, trucks, and the fire prevention system. Next slide. Public Works at $8,966,219 in expenses for the tangible things in life. This covers waste management, roads, engineering, drainage, storm systems, NG transit, snow removal, bridges, and the utilities and fuel to support these services. Next slide. The North Grenville Municipal Centre, with expenses of $3,167,061, covers the building and arena here at 285 County Road 44, the building lease, and all the utilities and staff to support its upkeep and operations. Planning and bylaw with expenses of $1,414,534 covers off all the personnel and operations for the planning functions for growth and existing ratepayers, plus bylaw, animal control, and enforcement. The North Grenville Public Library operating expenses of $629,777 is the expected expenses for the public library, which includes the grant from the municipal operations of $533,533. This completes the operations, and now we move into capital. Next slide. The capital overview provides total expenses of $7,873,693, which is broken down by category. Next slide. This slide provides it broken down by the funding resources. Next slide. Each department director will highlight a project or two over the next 4 slides and will be available for questions. We start with Public Works.
Thank you, Ms. Dunlop. So for a number of listed items here for capital budget for Public Works, some of highlight is, of course, the County Road 43 expansion. This is the non-water and wastewater component of just over $1.6 million. We do have various amount of road projects listed for just over $1.5 million, as well as you'll see a number of other projects there. One we will highlight is the Birds Rapids detailed design of $25,000. That is in addition to what was approved in the 2023 budget. If there's any questions, I can answer after.
Thank you, Karen. Parks and Recreation and Culture capital projects for 2024 include the completion of the Heron's Nest Park at the Tempo subdivision here in North Grenville. Currently, we have a conceptual plan, detailed design underway, and we'll be doing some community consultation at the end of this month for that particular project. We also have the completion of the multi-use pathway on County Road 44 to complete this year. We are also doing some accessibility upgrades at the South Gore Park Pavilion, as well as some parking lot improvements at Riverside Park.
Next slide is also Parks and Rec.
So it is. So most of this is some projects here at the North Grenville Municipal Center. We have a nice resurfacer replacement that we will be completing in 2024. We have some meeting room 2 IT upgrades, replacement of some tables and carts within our hall suites, and a couple of upgrades to the Urbandale Arts Center, a new lighting board for performances, as well as a new set of speakers.
Next slide, EPS.
Thank you. For personal protective equipment, this is our annual replacement program for personal protective equipment for existing staff and also new staff. Firefighting equipment and tools is replacement of damaged equipment or new equipment to provide core services for the municipality. And the electric positive pressure ventilation fan is to replace a damaged piece of equipment. It was a gas-operated piece of equipment, and we were going with newer technology. It will be operated electrically. Thank you.
Next slide. The water and wastewater budget is by regulation separate and sustainable. The rates are set based on the sustainable needs of the system in order to maintain in compliance with all regulation. Director Finley will go over the next few slides on the operational and capital workings of this division.
Thank you, Ms. Dunlop. So a few 2023 highlights. We did tender out for the water pollution control plan expansion. We do expect a report coming back to council in February 2024. There was completion of the Concession Road water main, and also a section of the Victoria Street sanitary main was replaced as well. For some 2024 objectives, we do have our servicing master plan update coming through. It has been almost 10 years, it's 2015 since the last master plan was produced, so this will be very important for the growth and development in the service area. We also do list a number of pipe works and replacement projects and the objectives as well. Next slide, please. This slide is to demonstrate the amount of average residential consumption for our billing. We do bill out every 2 months based on the monthly charges shown, which has a base rate and a consumption portion. We do compare this to the 2020 rate study that was approved by Council, which does demonstrate, the rate study did demonstrate an expected 12 cubic meters of water consumption per month on the average residential use, and we are seeing back in 2023 that it was about 11.45 cubic meters monthly. So we are on track of our predicting our average consumption. Next slide, please. This slide does show the water wastewater operating budget. We do identify that the user fees during the water bills do pay for this independent of taxation. What we do show is about a 2% increase, which is consistent with the 2020 rate review. I do want to clarify that this 2% is not a 2% increase in rates. It is just a 2% as predicted through the rate study. So there isn't a projected increase in the water wastewater rates for billing. Next slide, please. And again, this chart just shows it pictorially where the expenses and our revenue is from the user fees. Next slide, please. This next slide does show the water wastewater debt that the municipality is currently paying for. It does show our principal and interest as well as the totals for the 4 projects listed. Next slide, please. So this slide does give a breakdown of the capital costs and the funding for those capital costs. We are, with the water pollution control plan expansion, we are looking at a total cost of about just over 32 million, and we're looking at our funding sources between debt financing as well as our user fees to cover off the funding for these projects. Next slide, please. So this slide for the water and wastewater budget does identify the listed capital projects. We did break them out between wastewater projects as well as water projects. Again, from a trend, the water pollution control plant first phase expected amount is shown here, as well as a number of operating replacement pieces. We do also identify inflow and infiltration improvements, which we did see in April of 2023 with the freezing rain event. We are looking to make some improvements in the wastewater collection system there. Next slide, please. That is it for the water wastewater budget.
Thank you very much, Director Finley. To date, we have not received any electronic questions, but of course, always willing to take other questions. Just to confirm with the clerk, no other questions have been received? Thank you.
Great. So we do have members of council here. So as long as council isn't advancing business or stating preferences or commitments in regards to the draft budget, you're welcome to ask questions if you have any.
Sure, thank you very much. And I just want to preface this by saying I appreciate the fact that we have this budget so early, and I know there was a lot of work involved in getting it ready in time for us to have this deep dive if necessary. I promise it won't be too deep, and I'm asking these questions keeping in mind that it's recorded and it's a public meeting and people may be looking for some clarification, and if through your answers you can provide some clarification in advance of our next public meeting, I think that would be great. So My first question, I guess, was to the Director of Public Works. It's about the storm sewer remediation. Now, I understand that in 2022, we had CCTV footage, and of course, we have drainage concern forms that people submit. I'm just wondering, are we anticipating more than $50,000 a year over the next 3 years in terms of remediation based on new information that may be coming to us this year as a result of the Stormwater Master Plan?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. For the 2024 projection, we are anticipating the $50,000. However, based on some preliminary screening of some of the CCTVs and the condition of some of our stormwater pipes, the age of them, that will most likely be increased in future years. But for the 2024, we're going to work with that program as proposed at the moment.
Okay, great. Next question is still to you, Mike. Thank you. It's regarding the road projects. There's some great detail, and I'm sure some residents, if they're privy to this detail, would be encouraged by the amount of repaving we're planning to do in 2024, gravel rebuilds and slurry seals. I just note that of the total $2 million that are budgeted this in 2024, that only $685,000 is coming from taxation. So in other words, just a third of the cost comes from taxation. Where does the other 2/3 come from? We see OCIF and CCBF. Can you elaborate on those acronyms for the public?
Thank you. So those are government grants that we do receive. The exact names of them are escaping me at the moment, but I can get that back to you to clarify that. But they are higher level provincial and federal government grants that we get for those works.
And I note that for the next 3 years, we're planning to spend $2 million a year on road projects, correct? The total of $6 million over the next 3 years.
So for 2024, actually, that total estimated has been reduced to just over $1.5 million, $1.565. And then after that, we are proposing for $2 million, pending the approvals year to year.
Okay, great. So this year, the total is
$1,565,000.
And then for the next 2 years, it's
we're proposing $2 million at the moment.
But that 1.5, whatever, is still a third is coming from taxation and the rest from other levels of government.
Correct.
Okay.
If I may?
Yep.
Deputy Mayor, the other source of revenue is also from our neighbors to the south. We do have one shared project. Totem Ranch Road is getting paved this year, so 50% of that will be funded through a shared program. So we'll pay 50%, they'll pay 50%. The other is the Canada Community Building Fund, formerly known as gas tax, so that's the $565,000. The Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund, we have $885,000, and then the OMPF, which is shared throughout divisions, is a little over $1 million.
Okay, great. I guess the key point is that it's not all coming out of taxation. Pedestrian crossover, I just want to double check that in the presentation we last had, that budget item is anticipated to increase. It wouldn't be reflected in this document, correct?
No, it isn't reflected at this point. We anticipate to bring that back to the February presentation to council. Excuse me.
Okay. The next question would be to Director Guy regarding one of my favorite buildings, Maplewood Hall. The estimated cost of $100,000 is for the roof maintenance. But the detail, the justification I have here, it doesn't, what's in here, maybe you want to correct it. Cleaning, surface preparation, priming, and painting. Is there, I would anticipate there's more that's happening to the roof than just painting.
Thanks for the question, Deputy Mayor. Through the work that was being done to the rehabilitation of the hall this past year, The contractor did, while working on the copula, notice some structural issues with the roof. So that is included in the $100,000 along with the replacement of the roof, the steel roof, and then the painting and whatnot that you see on the justification. So there is a little bit extra to what you've seen on the justification form.
I thought that might be the case, but okay. Let me see, what else do I have? I think that is almost it. Yeah, I'm just curious about this is back to Director Finley, replacement of hydrants. What does it cost to replace a single hydrant?
There are a number of factors that can change that depending on where the hydrant's located, if there's asphalt to be replaced. A lot of them do not, or a lot of the older ones do not have isolation valves, so that'll be installed with the replacement of hydrants. So it can vary. They are, I believe, about, the last time it was about $3,000 to purchase. And then, of course, there's traffic implications as well. So it can add up fairly quickly depending on where they are.
Okay. So we're looking to replace maybe 7, something like that?
I'd have to look back at the exact amount to let you know. And finally, I think that's it for now. Thanks. We get another kick at it possibly in February 1st. Okay, thank you.
Okay, council colleagues, are there others who would like to ask questions of staff since you're here? Yes, come on up, Councillor O'Sullivan. We're simulating what it feels like to be a member of the public. So, might I have your name and address? Will you turn on your mic?
It's been a while since I've been here. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I just have a question about asset management. A number of the items in the budget are to replace outdated equipment and like fire services, that equipment that's outdated, and tables and chairs and things like that need to be upgraded or replaced. The money in the asset management planning, money is set aside for these sorts of things. Is that money into the reserve funds, and then we take it from the reserve funds back to pay for those necessary replacements or upgrades?
Oh, we'll turn to Ms. Dunlop and then she can go from there.
I'm not sure I can specifically answer the question, so I don't want to give you a false answer. The asset management items that are listed in this are based on condition assessments, as well as our asset management plan, which is managed by our asset manager. But in regards to the reserve and money drawn, I can't answer that question. I don't know if our deputy treasurer can, or we will bring that back at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Dancy, do you?
I'm unfortunate to have to say we'll bring it back at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you. So I guess just further to that, is there a separate asset management fund that is used for each department for upgrades and replacements as necessary? Thanks.
Other council colleagues wanting to ask a question at this stage? So just quick reminders, colleagues, of questions that came up during the council presentation. So, Mr. Finley, I just wanted to let you know that there was that inquiry about a sidewalk potentially in Oxford Mills, and that email has been shared with you. This was through some resident contact that myself and Deputy Mayor received earlier this year. And I also asked about the possibility of exploring a safe pedestrian crossing at the 4322 roundabout. I know, again, we were so pleased to see the foundation for that pedestrian connectivity built into the roundabout. So I know council was interested in whether or not we could provide some safe pedestrian crossings to the park. I know you likely don't have those answers tonight, but certainly just wanted to flag it for you as you move forward. And finally, Ms. Dunlop, I thought it might be helpful for the public, or perhaps it's Mr. Finley. Of course, we are anticipating some County Road 43 costs. I'm not sure what's been quantified for this year, given that the project is just beginning. Mr. Finley, can you remind me what we expect to spend in 2024 on the parts of the County Road 43 rehabilitation project that are ours, our cost to bear, if you will?
Absolutely, Your Worship. So what we have predicted so far in terms of just year one, so just for 2024, for the, excuse me, the non-water and sewer components, so this would be for the MUPs, sidewalks, lighting, some landscaping, things like that. We are looking at approximately just under $1.7 million, $1,692,627 for that piece of it. In terms of the water and wastewater portions, for the wastewater section of it, we are looking at just under $1 million, $979,838, as well as the water main component of $660,332.
And these are costs that we are expecting to incur in the calendar year 2024?
Correct.
Okay. So when Deputy Mayor speaks of a capital works budget for roads, obviously County Road 43 is above and over and above those stated numbers for the other roads projects that were identified. Is that right?
Correct. That County Road 43 is its specific own line item. The other road projects that were talked about are a separate item.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you. And we were talking about County Road 43 at the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville this morning, so it's fresh on my mind. Council, I'll just go back to you one more time. The intention of this session was to give community members an opportunity to engage and or to watch online so that they could benefit from the thinking of staff at this stage. If there are no other questions, then I think we'll move to wrap up this session. Of course, it isn't a formal meeting of council. It was just designed to share information. And we look forward to our exclusively virtual Zoom session on February 1st. And Ms. Dunlop, remind us the date you're anticipating to bring a revised budget back to council would be?
February the 20th.
February 20th at this stage. Okay. Maybe I'll say finally, we are fielding questions from some of the organizations that applied for community grants. I think it would be helpful, and I'm turning to our clerk here, to at least communicate with groups who have had provisionally, whose grant applications have been provisionally accepted by council to be advanced to the budget stage. There's a number of groups that are waiting to hear so that they can plan accordingly for their year. I know that we won't pass the budget in full until mid-February, but some of the groups would appreciate getting notice of council's recommendation, which will give them some confidence that they can sort of plan accordingly. Of course, they may not receive the money until after the budget is passed, but the recommendation's been made, and I don't believe we've communicated with groups at this stage. Is that right?
I'll follow up with staff tomorrow. My understanding was that the communication had been done, so I'll follow up to ensure that has gone out to the appropriate community groups, as well as a copy of the recommendation with the amount that council has recommended to move forward to the budget. As Madam Mayor, you've stated, it wasn't pre-approved, but it is recommended to move forward.
Yes, thank you. There is some time sensitivity, I think, for a couple of those groups, so having at least the information at this stage, I think, will be helpful to them. So I'll just give it one more try for council. You're all good, council colleagues? All right. Then we'll adjourn this session. Thank senior management team for being here, going through the exercise once again. And we look forward to further discussion in the weeks ahead.